Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Beverley Ramabu, and today on this segment of A Scent for Your Scent, we are going to be talking about perfume testers. But before I give my opinion on them, I want to first touch on a few key points. And yeah, so without wasting time, let's get into it. There are a few points that I want to touch on. The first one being, what are testers? Are they legit? Why are they packaged differently? Why do other testers smell different? Who should buy them? And where in South Africa can I buy fragrance testers? So you probably want to know, what are testers? So let me put it to you this way. When a manufacturer actually makes a product, in this case fragrances, what usually happens is there are certain quality requirements that they need to meet, and if they don't meet that standard, usually then these products are set aside and not included in the inventory that gets sent to stores. These are then usually referred to as testers. There could be a number of reasons that they don't meet the standard. It could be maybe a chipped bottle, or the atomizer not working properly, or even the discoloration in the juice that's inside the bottle. So testers are accounted for separately and they are not included as inventory. So the following question would be, why do they not then have proper packaging? Because they're not part of the inventory that gets sold to the public. This is why they don't have the proper packaging. A tester is meant to be taken from storage straight to the display on the fragrance aisle or something like that. Unlike the inventory that gets taken from storage into the consumer's hands. So obviously packaging will be different. When you purchase a fragrance, the cost of the whole package is included, the logistics and everything like that. And when you buy a fragrance from a department store, there's a whole experience of opening a freshly packaged fragrance, unlike when you buy a tester, which was not initially meant to be sold. It's meant to be put on display and tested out by different people. That's the whole reason behind it. So they wouldn't now want to incur cost of packaging it like that, because it's not meant for that experience. It's meant to strictly test out. So that's why then testers would have different packaging. That's why sometimes you also find that you buy a tester and it does not have a cap. Why? Because from the box, it's only going to be put on the display aisle and tested out. And sometimes with some companies, they feel that having a cap on a tester is actually a hindrance, because if people always have to then take off the cap, test it out, take off the cap and test it out, it maybe ruins the whole testing out experience. So they just have the fragrance there with no cap. So that's why when you do purchase a tester, it does not have a cap. And if maybe you're lucky enough that the tester comes in a box or maybe bubble wrap, it's only maybe to protect it while it's being transported. I'm sure then you would ask, hey, this whole packaging story, I'm not buying it. Are testers legit? Yes, they are. Testers are legit if you are buying it from a trusted and reputable source. But with every industry, you always know that there are people who are going to take chances. So there are some people who are going to sell you counterfeits and pose them to you as testers. So you need to be wary of that. Hence, I say it needs to be a trusted and reputable source. And then now comes the big question that has everyone fighting about testers. And this would be, why do some testers smell different? I'm sure you've had an experience whereas you've sprayed a tester at a department store and you went back home and you really loved how it smelled on you, and then you went back and you purchased a fragrance, but then when you sprayed it on, it's completely different from the one that you tested in store. I'm sure a few of us have had that experience. You are not entirely wrong in your experience. And this is why. There are a number of reasons why fragrance testers would then smell different from the fragrance that you buy in store. The first one would be the batch number. No batches are the same. This is because, let's say your fragrance, one of the notes in your fragrance is heavily reliant on lavender. You might find that the lavender that is harvested in 2005 is not necessarily of the same quality and aroma as the one that's harvested in maybe 2010. This is because maybe of the climate. If there was a drought in 2005 and there was an abundance of maybe rain in 2010, obviously the quality of vegetation will be different. And then this would then also influence how the lavender comes across in a fragrance, you know. This is me just giving a very loose example. So batches are not necessarily the same. And another thing would also be reformulation. Fragrance constantly go a lot of reformulation, mainly because of maybe customers or somebody picking up something that maybe does not sit well in a fragrance, and then they maybe need to reformulate it over and over again. So sometimes you might find that the tester is not being used as much, and then the inventory that got sent with the tester gets sold a lot faster than the tester being used, and then the new batch that arrives does not really match the tester that is on the aisle, and that is usually the reason why. Another thing, I'm sure you guys have seen my previous videos on how to store your fragrances, and fragrances are very sensitive to light. That's why I always encourage you guys to store it in a dark, dry, cool place. This is because fragrance is very sensitive to light. So usually with these aisles in department stores, in order to get that ambiance, there's always like a lot of lighting, you know. So that also affects the fragrance. 9 hours of the day, you might find that the fragrance is exposed to extreme lighting like that, and that would hinder the molecules that are in the fragrance, and they might break apart, therefore changing the fragrance, you know. So that's why you might also find that it actually smells different. The lighting also influences like the fragrance inside. Who should then buy testers? In my opinion, I feel that if you are somebody who wants to try out a new fragrance, but you really don't want to pay a lot for it, then you should definitely then look into getting testers, because sometimes these samples that I give us, they don't last that long, and so it's not enough for you to make a conclusive decision if you are gonna invest in a fragrance or not. So then try getting testers and try it out, and then if you really like it, then you can fully commit to buying it at retail prices. Someone also who is strapped for cash but you are really into fragrances, testers are definitely for you. Or even somebody who runs through the fragrances like me. I usually use like, my guys, I run through fragrance because I'm a bit heavy-handed when I apply my fragrances. So testers are, for me, they're a viable option, you know. If I don't want to maybe go to your department stores and buy it at a retail price, then I opt for testers. And if you're also somebody who likes fragrances, but you're not really into like, there's a whole experience of opening that big box and finding, maybe usually with retailers, they usually maybe include like a small gift and something like that. But if you're not really into that and you just solely want the juice, you just solely want the fragrance, then also buy that. Who should not buy fragrance testers? A person with maybe a large collection of fragrances, right? Because if you have a large collection of fragrances, you might actually end up using that tester once or twice in a year. So then why would you want a fragrance tester? Because by the time you actually then do use the fragrance, it might be maybe off or something because of previous conditions it might have been stored in, like sitting in the aisle, or maybe it might be like a fragrance that's been in storage for 10 years before it actually got sold off as a tester. So think about that rather than opt for a fragrance sold at your normal department stores. So also, I forgot, another thing that might cause a fragrance to smell different is if there's a lot of air that actually enters the fragrance, it causes the fragrance maybe to go bad or to change a bit. So as much as some fragrance testers do not come with caps, there is a reason why fragrances have caps, and it's to actually stop air from going down through the nozzle into the fragrance. So be mindful of that. Make sure that there's not a lot of air that enters your fragrance, because it's going to accelerate your fragrance going back or smelling really funky. Where in South Africa can you purchase perfume testers? There are two websites that I know of. I've personally not purchased from them, but I know they sell testers, and this is My Perfume Shop and also Essence. You guys can check them out. Let me know how your experience was with them. And I also know of an Instagram account that sells perfume testers. I actually happened to win a giveaway that they had, and I was lucky enough to win this 75ml bottle of Lancome La Vie Belle. And yeah, this fragrance deviated a bit from how I personally know Lancome La Vie Belle to smell like, and the top notes of this fragrance were a bit eroded in a way, but it is still good to wear, you know, but it's not how I know Lancome La Vie Belle. And also I also want to highlight that because I know it's a tester bottle, this is what you should sometimes maybe expect when you buy tester bottles. The cap was not perfect, and I'm not sure if you guys can see here, but it also there's a writing here which says La Vie Belle tester demonstration, you know. So of course your testers will not be perfect. They won't be as perfect as the ones that you buy from your retailers. So when you do buy testers, you should also know that there's a reason why these things are testers, you know. So sometimes it might be because of it's chipped, or the juice, or this is stock from 5 or 6 years ago, which I feel like maybe this might be the case. So yeah, those are my thoughts on testers, and yeah, this is just what I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you so much for watching up until the end. Love and light. Mwah.